My name is Mary. I'm 45 years old, and if you looked at my life from the outside, you'd probably think I have it all. I own a company I built from a single desk in my apartment. I have a house with tall gates, a staff who keep it running, cars I once only dreamed of driving. People see the clothes, the travel photos, the awards, and they imagine happiness must come easy to me. But success can be a very quiet place. After years of 12-hour days and lonely dinners, I started to wonder if maybe I had traded every chance at love for spreadsheets and late-night meetings. Then, almost like a storybook twist, I met David, 30 years old. Warm smile, the kind of energy that made a crowded room fade until it felt like only the two of us existed. He told me I was brilliant, beautiful, that age meant nothing, and I believed him. For the first time in a decade, I let someone hold my heart. We planned everything together, the elegant rehearsal dinner, the roses, the music that would play when I walked down the aisle. My friends teased me about the age gap, but I just laughed. Love had finally found me, and I wasn't going to question the gift. But love, as I learned, can hide shadows. 3 days before the wedding, an ordinary evening at home turned into the night my world tilted. I picked up my tablet to check a calendar reminder, and a message flashed across the screen, one I was never meant to see. A message from David, but not to me. In that instant, I discovered a secret that lived under my own roof. The man I was about to marry was sharing whispers, plans, and late-night promises with someone I trusted every single day, my own house help. And from that moment, I knew our wedding would not end the way anyone expected. Before everything came crashing down, my life looked picture perfect. Mornings began with sunlight spilling across polished marble floors. The house I worked half a lifetime to afford sat high on a hill, surrounded by gardens that smelled of jasmine after rain. 2 cars gleamed in the driveway, a silver convertible for fun, and a black SUV for days when business demanded a little more power. My staff kept the rhythm steady. The chef humming in the kitchen, the gardener trimming roses, and Grace, my quiet house help, gliding through rooms so smoothly you barely noticed her at all. I loved the order of it. Every day had a plan. Meetings, workouts, a late dinner with close friends. I had built this kingdom myself, brick by stubborn brick, and I was proud. But there were nights when the silence pressed in, when success felt like a very large, very empty room. That's when David appeared. I first saw him at a charity art gala. 30 years old, tall, wearing a navy suit that fit like it was made just for him. He smiled with the kind of confidence that lights a room without burning it down. When he asked about my company, he listened, really listened in a way most people don't. One conversation turned into coffee the next day, then late dinners, then long walks where time seemed to slip away. David made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. Young. Not younger, not pretending, just alive. He teased me about my careful routines, surprised me with spur-of-the-moment road trips, and insisted on opening every door like we were living in a black-and-white film. My friends raised eyebrows at the age difference, but I laughed it off. Love, I told them, doesn't care about calendars. Through all of this, Grace was always there, a quiet heartbeat in the background of our growing romance. She had worked for me for nearly 5 years. Grace never pushed herself forward, soft-spoken, efficient, almost invisible in her reliability. She prepared our dinners, kept the house warm and welcoming, and seemed genuinely happy whenever David visited. Sometimes I'd catch her watching us with a small smile, and I thought, she must be happy to see me happy. Looking back, those were the calm days, the soft lull before the storm rolled in. I had no idea that the people I trusted most, the man I planned to marry and the woman I treated like family, were already weaving a secret of their own right under my roof. It began so quietly I almost missed it. David had always been thoughtful, the kind of man who wanted to be involved in every wedding detail. So when he started dropping by late at night, claiming he wanted to help choose centerpieces or finalize music lists, I thought nothing of it. Sometimes he'd show up after I'd finished a long day at work, smiling, saying, "I know it's late, but I missed you." My heart melted every time. But soon I noticed his visits had a pattern. He'd arrive when I was still at the office or out at a meeting, slipping in through the side gate Grace usually used. I'd come home to find them laughing in the kitchen, the smell of freshly brewed coffee in the air, like they'd been waiting for me but didn't expect me so soon. Grace, my quiet Grace, began to change too. It was subtle at first, a new hairstyle, a brighter shade of lipstick. I thought maybe she just wanted to feel good about herself, and I even complimented her. But then came the clothes. Crisp designer blouses I'd never seen her buy, delicate jewelry that glinted under the chandelier, and the phone. One evening, I saw her pull out a brand new smartphone, sleek, expensive, the exact model David had been showing me only a week before. When I asked if she'd upgraded, she smiled faintly and said, "A friend helped me get it." A friend. That word stuck in my head like a thorn. The next clue was harder to brush aside. I walked into the sitting room earlier than expected one night and caught them sharing a look, just a flicker of something too familiar. Not the casual glance of two people who work in the same house, but something private. Their eyes met, lingered, and in that heartbeat of silence I felt the air shift. They pulled apart quickly, David clearing his throat, Grace excusing herself to the kitchen. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe I was tired. Maybe wedding stress was making me see ghosts where there were none. But once you notice the first crack, you start to see all the others. David's phone, always face down on the table. Grace humming softly when she thought no one was near, the tune suspiciously similar to the song David had played for me on our first road trip. Little things, harmless if taken alone, but together they formed a pattern, a quiet rhythm of secrets beating inside my own walls. I didn't want to believe it. Not after everything I'd already survived in life, not when I'd finally dared to love again. So I smiled. I pretended not to notice. And I told myself that the people I trusted most couldn't possibly betray me. I told myself a lie, because the truth was still too heavy to carry. The night I finally saw the truth started out so ordinary, it could have slipped past like any other. I'd come home late from a board meeting, head buzzing with numbers and contracts. The house was quiet, too quiet. Grace had already finished her chores, and David had texted earlier to say he was working late. I dropped my handbag on the counter, set my tablet down, and went to pour myself a glass of wine. That's when it happened. A soft ping echoed through the kitchen. I turned and saw the tablet screen glowing in the dim light. I hadn't locked it after a presentation earlier, so messages were still synced and open. A small banner slid across the top of the screen. "David, can't wait to see you tonight." For a moment I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. I stepped closer, wine glass trembling in my hand. Beneath David's name was the contact, Grace. My heart kicked against my ribs like it was trying to escape. I tapped the message, palms damp. The chat unfolded in front of me, line after line, each word heavier than the last. "I love the way you smell after you cook. Wish we didn't have to hide. Meet me when she's at work." The world narrowed to that glowing screen. I could hear my own breathing, quick and shallow. The walls of the kitchen felt closer, the air thicker. It was as if every piece of trust I'd built over months had been ripped apart in a single swipe. But shock gave way to something colder, clarity. I forced myself to move. First, I grabbed my phone and started taking screenshots. Each message, every timestamp, each little heart emoji evidence. My hands shook so badly I worried the images would blur, but I kept going until I had them all. Next, I remembered the wireless printer in my office. Step by step, I sent each screenshot through. The hum of the printer down the hallway sounded unnaturally loud, like a drumbeat to the betrayal. As the pages slid out, I felt strangely detached, as though I were watching someone else, some other woman, gather proof of her fiancé's affair with her own employee. Yet beneath that numbness, a fierce, quiet anger began to rise. I stacked the papers neatly, smoothing the edges with a steadiness I didn't feel. In those moments I made a silent promise. I will not scream. I will not cry. I will not warn them. If they wanted secrecy, I would give them spectacle. I turned off the tablet, poured the untouched wine down the sink, and carried the printed messages to my bedroom. Each step up the stairs echoed like a countdown. Tomorrow, I decided, the world would see exactly who David and Grace truly were. And I would decide the perfect time and place to let the truth speak for me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the printed messages spread out on the duvet like a fan of poisoned flowers. Every few minutes I'd hear the clock tick and wonder if I'd imagined it all. But the words on those pages didn't fade with the hours. They burned brighter. Cancel the wedding quietly? That thought came first. I could call the planner, send a polite notice, let people assume we'd simply grown apart. My reputation would stay intact. My friends would rally. Grace could be dismissed without explanation. But every time I considered it, a sour taste rose in my throat. That plan felt too neat, too easy for them. David would spin a story about how we parted amicably. Grace would find another job. They'd keep their little secret. I thought about the gifts already delivered, the dress waiting in its ivory box, the vendors who'd worked for months, my own staff who'd smiled at David like he was already family. No, this wasn't going to end with whispers in a hallway. Sometime around dawn, as the city outside turned a dusty gray, the idea came to me fully formed, sharp and cold. I would let the truth walk into that rehearsal hall, dressed in flowers and lace. I would not raise my voice. I wouldn't need to. I pictured their faces, the guests in their elegant clothes, David waiting for me at the end of the aisle, wearing that confident half smile, Grace standing discreetly with the staff, pretending to blend into the background, and then the reveal. A small, quiet satisfaction settled over me. By mid-morning, I was moving through the house like a woman possessed. I called the florist to confirm the rehearsal bouquet, soft white roses bound in satin. While she spoke, I slid the printed messages into a fresh envelope and sealed it tight. The bouquet arrived that afternoon. Perfect, full and fragrant. I loosened the satin just enough to slip the envelope deep among the stems, careful not to bruise a single petal. When I retied the ribbon, the evidence disappeared, hidden beneath layers of delicate bloom. I rehearsed my lines in the mirror, not words of rage but of quiet precision, a greeting to the guests, a small announcement, and then the truth, delivered with the grace they never expected from a woman scorned. As evening fell, I chose my dress, an elegant navy sheath, understated but commanding. I fastened the diamond earrings David had given me, a final irony, and looked at my reflection. "You are not the victim," I whispered to myself. "You are the storm." When the driver pulled up, I walked out carrying the bouquet, its hidden envelope resting against my palm. Each step to the car felt deliberate, heavy with purpose. Tomorrow's rehearsal dinner wasn't just practice for a wedding anymore. It was the stage for a reckoning they would never forget. The evening of the rehearsal arrived warm and golden, the kind of sunset that paints the world in honey and almost convinces you everything is perfect. Guests spilled across the church courtyard in clusters of silk dresses and tailored suits, their laughter bouncing off the stone walls. Candles flickered along the pews, casting a soft glow over the altar where tomorrow's vows were supposed to be spoken. I moved among them like a hostess in a dream greeting, aunts, kissing cheeks, accepting compliments about how radiant I looked. Beneath the navy dress, my pulse kept a steady drumbeat. In my hands, the bouquet felt heavier than any weight I'd ever carried, the hidden envelope pressing like a heartbeat against the roses. David stood near the front, handsome as ever in a crisp white shirt, joking with my brother. He turned when he saw me, that charming smile flashing like nothing in the world could be wrong. Grace lingered near the catering staff, her hair smoothed into a perfect bun. Her eyes met mine for half a second, then darted away. The minister clapped his hands gently. "Shall we begin the rehearsal?" We walked through the motions, the music cue, the slow steps down the aisle, the positioning at the altar. My heels echoed in the quiet sanctuary, each click sharpening my focus. When the minister suggested we practice the exchange of vows, I lifted a hand. "Before we start," I said, my voice clear and steady, "there's something you all need to hear." The room stilled. I set the bouquet on the podium, fingers finding the hidden envelope with ease. I slid the papers free and unfolded them slowly, the soft crackle of paper loud in the hush. "These," I said, "are text messages between my fiancé, David, and my househelp, Grace." A ripple of disbelief moved through the crowd. I began to read. Each word cut the air like glass. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Last night was perfect. She'll never know." Gasps. A sharp intake of breath from my mother. Someone's wine glass clinked against the pew. David froze, the easy grin sliding from his face like paint in the rain. His eyes darted to Grace, who stood rooted to the floor, trembling so hard the tray in her hands rattled. I read every message, each one a hammer strike, until the sanctuary felt electrified by the silence between sentences. When the last word left my lips, I folded the papers with deliberate calm. I reached for the engagement ring, heavy, glittering, a symbol now stripped of meaning. Without a word, I pulled it from my finger. Clink. The sound of diamond meeting marble rang through the church like a final bell. I looked at David not with rage, but with the cool clarity of a storm passing. "The rehearsal is over," I said, "for all of us." Then I turned. My heels struck the aisle in a measured rhythm, each step echoing in the stunned silence. Behind me, whispers exploded, sharp, breathless, like a fire catching dry leaves. I didn't look back. Not once. Outside, the evening air tasted different, clean, electric, alive. I walked toward the waiting car, the soft petals of the bouquet brushing against my arm as if to remind me this was my choice, my freedom. The echo of that ring striking marble lingered long after I stepped outside. Behind me, the church erupted first, a stunned hush, then a flurry of gasps and low, urgent whispers. Did she just... Are those real messages? Oh my God, Grace? I kept walking, but the sounds carried through the open doors like a wave breaking on stone. David's voice cracked across the noise. "Mary, wait please. It's not what it looks like." His polished confidence had vanished. Every syllable came out thin and panicked. Guests shifted in their seats, heads swiveling like a field of startled birds. My brother folded his arms and stepped forward, blocking David's path when he tried to follow me. Grace stood frozen near the catering table, her face drained of color. Someone whispered her name. Cameras flashed. The tray she'd been holding slid from her hands and clattered onto the floor, scattering glasses in a ringing cascade. She covered her face with trembling fingers, shoulders shaking as the weight of the revelation settled over her. Outside, I reached my car and exhaled for the first time in hours. Cool night air filled my lungs, sharp and freeing. I felt taller somehow, lighter. Within minutes, the story began to ripple beyond the church walls. A guest, maybe two, had filmed the entire confrontation. Phones buzzed with alerts as the video raced across group chats and then onto social media. Mock headlines bloomed before I even reached my driveway. 4-5-year-old bride exposes younger fiancé in front of guests. Luxury wedding turns to live soap opera. Housekeeper named an explosive wedding rehearsal scandal. Comments poured in, strangers applauding, some offering sympathy, others dissecting every glance, every pause in the footage. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed non-stop. Friends checking in, employees sending quiet messages of support, even reporters sniffing around for a quote. I ignored them all. In the quiet of my car, I let the hum of the engine drown out the chaos. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the need to explain or defend. I simply drove home, the city lights sliding past like falling stars, each one carrying away a little more of the hurt. David's number lit up my screen again and again. I let it ring until it went silent. Tonight wasn't about him. It was about me reclaiming my story. In the days that followed, I learned something money can't teach. Loyalty isn't bought. It's earned, and sometimes it's simply not there. Reporters tried to chase the story, but I stayed silent. I didn't need to fight online battles. The video spoke for itself. While David scrambled to save face and Grace vanished from the city's gossip pages, I focused on something bigger, me. My mornings changed first. I woke without the knot in my chest, without wondering where he was or who he texted at midnight. Instead, I watched the sun rise over the gardens I built, coffee in hand, a quiet victory in every sip. Soon I started saying yes to the things I'd postponed. A weekend trip to Florence, just me and my camera, wandering through art-filled streets. Dinner parties with friends where we laughed until candles burned low. Boardroom meetings where I felt sharper, lighter, unstoppable. Sometimes people ask if I regret the wedding that never was. I tell them the truth. I regret nothing. Because the life I have now, this freedom, this peace was waiting all along. I just needed the courage to choose dignity over heartbreak. David was a chapter. Grace, a footnote. And me? I'm the author, writing the next page on my own terms. My story isn't about revenge. It's about remembering your own worth when someone tries to make you forget it. I walked away from a wedding, but what I really walked toward was my freedom. If this journey inspired you, if you believe that dignity and self-respect are worth more than diamonds, join me and many others who choose courage every day. Subscribe for more powerful, true stories of people who refuse to be broken. And remember, you are always stronger than the betrayal you survive.